Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This video is about the new recommendations that House of Commons has given the IRCC, and they expect these recommendations to be followed and ultimately implemented. So in this video, I'm going to give you all the details from their website, and after watching this video you will be able to understand what these recommendations are, what are the changes that are going to come into place for IRCC. Okay, and this video is not based on speculations. Okay, so let's start the video. This is the website of House of Commons. Okay, and their standing committee, they issued this report, and this report was based on many feedbacks from different witnesses. Okay, and this is the list of recommendation, and we're going to go through all of these recommendations, but I suggest you watch this video in at least 720p so that you can read the text. Okay, and you watch this video at your comfort level, so that you watch this video till the end to understand the complete recommendations that House of Commons has given the IRCC. Okay, so the first recommendation is IRCC should fully digitalize the immigration and asylum system. These will include submitting applications electronically. We know that express entry procedures are already electronic, okay, but there are other immigration streams such as asylum, refugee, parental. These things are still in paper, and they want them to fully digitalize everything, and to be interviewed virtually, especially because of the travel restrictions, and to be issued visas electronically. Okay, the second recommendation is the IRCC issues a letter with a scannable barcode. Now, this is the modern way of how developed countries are behaving. They give you a scannable barcode for permanent residence visas instead of affixing a visa to physical passports. So yeah, this will speed up the process as well. Okay, and the third recommendation is about the increasing settlement funding for digital technology. Now, obviously, federal settlements are different, and provincial separate settlements are addition to what federal settlements are for new immigrants and for the immigration procedures. So, their recommendation is that IRCC should increase funding to settlement services. As you know, there are some settlement services for the new immigrants who want to settle in Canada. So they want to increase funding to those settlement services to promote digital literacy and the availability of digital tools. Some areas of Canada, they don't give out access to public for free bandwidth or free internet connections. So they might invest on that, and they might give you digital access, because some applications require the need of a computer and the need of a internet connection, and not everybody has computers, and they cannot submit those applications in time. So this is why they are going to give the people digital access, the availability of digital tools. Okay, recommendation 4 is about the expired PR cards. IRCC implements measures that enable permanent residents with expired PR cards whose PR card renewals have been impacted by COVID 19, and they should be allowed to return to Canada for the duration of pandemic period. Okay, now the next recommendation is about the validity of medical exams. Now that is recommendation number 5. During the pandemic period, now pandemic period has started since March 2020, right? You would agree with me. So IRCC should extend the validity of medical exams beyond a year. Previously, medical exams were valid for 1 year, but they are recommending that it should be extended beyond a year, and they should undertake concurrent processing of biometrics, medicals, and criminality and security check. Okay, the next recommendation number 6, is about obtaining medical exams in Canada under exceptional circumstances. Like the pandemic is an exceptional circumstance. Okay, so IRCC should implement a temporary policy allowing sponsored spouses with no access to a panel physician and medical exam in their own country to obtain the medical exam in Canada on a visitor visa. So this was not allowed before, and now they're recommending that it should be allowed. Recommendation 7 is about funding visa application center staff in Francophone Africa. Now, Francophone Africa is a part of Africa where previously in the history maybe there were French colonies, and the people they speak French as well as English, so they are Francophones. Okay, so in these recommendations they have talked about Francophone Africa for 2 to 3 times. Okay, so they want them to gain some advantage in the coming years because they need French immigrants for the sake of Quebec. Okay, I wouldn't go into the details. Recommendation 7 is the IRCC should encourage and fund visa application centers, the VACs, in Francophone Africa to increase staffing to accelerate the process of student biometrics and permits. That was for Francophone Africa. Now, recommendation 8 is prioritizing family reunification processing for protected persons. Okay, so IRCC should prioritize the processing where family members are classified as protected persons. Okay, now the recommendation number 9 is adding resources to process TR extensions, because obviously because of the pandemic TRs are expiring and they cannot advance their applications in time, so they are recommending to add resources so that the TRs can be extended. That was the recommendation number 9. Now the recommendation number 10 is basically segregating processing and application data. I've already made a video on which country is going to be the top immigrant country for Canada. So I collected that data from official IRCC websites, and they want more measures like applicants' race, religion, gender, age, source country, parental status. So these data, if they are not currently calculated by IRCC, then they should start calculating them, and they should disaggregate the processing and application data. That's what it means. Recommendation number 11 is about increasing access by introducing an international student helpline. So IRCC should provide improved services to students and recruitment officers through a dedicated international student helplines, and I'm sure that Quebec students are going to bombard that international helpline whenever they open it, because they are the ones suffering a lot in these times. Recommendation number 12 is about tracking application in real time. Now these things were there, but not, I would call, in an efficient manner. So they basically now want these applications tracking to be in real time for the help of the applicants. Okay, recommendation number 13 is, now you need to look out for the recommendation that is going to affect your case. Okay, so recommendation number 13 is about strengthening communication protocols. Now, the communication not only with the applicant but within the visa offices, within the PNP programs, within IRCC, and within the DLIs, designated learning institute, the universities where students can get their study permits for. Okay, so recommendation number 14 is about releasing to applicants a full justification of refusal. Now previously the refusal would be a generic response, I would call it. They would not really specify where your application went wrong, and they would give you kind of a generic response, and you will have to figure out what was the reason why I was not selected or why I was refused. Okay, so now they want you to give they want IRCC to give a full justification if there is a refusal. Okay, now recommendation number 15 is about creating an immigration ombudsperson, and I've opened it here, that what's an ombudsperson. So basically ombudsperson is sovereign person, and this practice has applied by Sweden and New Zealand. So that ombudsperson will basically look after IRCC, and if there is a complaint about IRCC, then applicants or related people, they can submit it to the Ombudsperson, so that IRCC is also under a check. Okay, recommendation 16 is about in issuing TR visas to spousal sponsorship applicants. Now, if you are living in Canada and you want to apply for a spousal sponsorship for your spouse, then what happens is you have to wait for the processing, long processing delays. But now they're recommending that the spouse can come to Canada on a temporary resident visa, and they are going to facilitate it. This is what the recommendation is, and the next recommendation is also supporting to that they will give you a super visa. Super visa is like they would give your parents that they can come to Canada. This is basically a multiple entry visa. Okay, so they will give you a super visa for your spouse as well. Recommendation number 18 is about building compassion. Now, I love this one. Building compassion into the system and communicating mistakes. Now, those applicants who have some problems with their applications, now the House of Chambers is recommending that IRCC should point out those mistakes before refusing the application. Like they simply refuse the application, but now they're recommending that they should at least allow some time, some leverage, and tell those people that your application is wrong here, you are missing some documents, you need additional documents, and things like that. So it's like being compassionate to the applicant, not being like rudely professional. That's what I would call it, not unprofessional, but rudely professional to the applicants. And IRCC should give out these details, like how to correct your mistakes, how to include missing documents, and also they would provide applicants with sufficient opportunity to respond before returning the entire file, and that file again regain their place in the queue. Okay, so it will not be in the start of the queue again, but it will regain the position in the queue. This is a great recommendation. Okay, recommendation number 19 is also very important, locking in the age of dependence. Now, we know that if your dependent children cross the age of 18, then there are some complications, you need additional documents. Okay, but if your dependent children are below the age of 18, then they are recommending that IRCC should lock in the age, okay, as of 1st of March 2020 until the pandemic ends. This will help you not get into trouble if your boy or your girl is approaching his or her 18th birthday. Okay. Recommendation number 20 is about prioritizing the processing of adoption cases. Now, this is again related to the children, that if you want to adopt a child, then the processing of adoption cases will be prioritized. Recommendation number 21 is also about adopting children, and the children who have specific urgent medical needs. Okay, and those needs must be prioritized. That's what the House of Chambers Standing Committee has recommended for IRCC. Recommendation number 22, creating a weighted parent and grandparent sponsorship. Okay, so basically these the parental sponsorship stream should properly weigh previous applications and looks to address the current backlog, and there be a pre-screening of files. Like we could see two-way immigration setup for like just the study visa. There are two ways, that the one is pre-screening and then the application processing. So maybe they could include the similar thing for parents and grandparent sponsorships. Okay, so this will speed up the process. Recommendation number 23, changing financial requirements for parent and grandparent sponsorship. Now, as there is a requirement for proof of fund for express entry, similarly there is a requirement for a person who wants to sponsor his parent or grandparent. Okay, and they want to like normalize those requirements. Given Canadian government or the institutions, they give you the new low income cutoff, and I'm also anticipating that for 2022 express entry might continue with the same amount of POF, because they are in no position to increase it. Recommendation number 24, ensuring safe in-person learning for international students. Now, international students are forced to study from their home countries, and they are not allowed to come to Canada. Okay, so this is basically against international students, if any, because they cannot work inside campus or outside campus for 20 hours a week. So this is basically against the international students. So they are recommending that ensuring in-person learning for international students should be the duty of IRCC, which is a great thing. Again, Quebec students could get benefit if this recommendation gets implemented. Recommendation number 25, reducing administrative requirements for co-op work terms. Now, what is a co-op program? Basically, it is a co-op program that when your education or the industry that is related to your work, your field of study, you get to work in that industry, and that is a co-op student. Okay. Other than that, these co-op work terms had many requirements, and they want IRCC to reduce the administrative requirements. Okay. Now, recommendation number 26, we're coming to an end, don't worry. Assessing the need to expand eligibility for federal settlement funding. As I said, federal settlement funding is already there, and they want to encourage PNP programs to also play their part in settling the new immigrants. Recommendation number 27 is about examining acceptance rate for international students. Now, I kind of dislike this one because they say that source countries such as Pakistan are getting very high acceptance rate for international students, which is a good thing, right? Like everybody's got a right to study. And if people from Pakistan are applying for study visa and they are getting approvals, then it is a good thing. You should not write it down here like it's a bad thing. Okay, so they are saying that it should be compared with the lower acceptance rate of students from Francophone Africa region. So if the acceptance rate of Francophone Africans is lower than Pakistani students, then I mean there must be something wrong with the SOP that they submit, or maybe some other complication. But well, they are going to, as I said, they are going to give advantage to the Francophone Africans. So they are going to examine the acceptance rate for international students. Okay. Recommendation number 28, issuing the authorization letter automatically. Now this will speed up the process, right? To foreign nationals who have had their confirmation, the COPRs. So they want to issue the authority letter automatically, okay? So that if your COPR expires during the pandemic period, your authorization letter is automatically issued, and the need to renew expired supporting documents be waived off. Like if your PCC has expired, if your IELTS has expired, then you shouldn't need to submit that again, because in the pandemic many people are facing problems in even booking an IELTS test. Recommendation number 29, prioritizing the issuing of the standard acknowledgement of receipt. So like they issue this usual acknowledgement receipt, okay, but they need to prioritize it, they need to do it fast, right? Recommendation number 30 is about bridging open work permits in Quebec. Now Quebec is basically not a province that is related to express entry, and they don't have a PNP program. So the government grant bridging open work permits to temporary residents who are waiting for PR through Quebec's skilled worker program. Now Quebec's skilled worker programs are all related to connections. Okay, so that's why I haven't made any videos on that. Now, these are recommendation number 31 is about caregivers, and as we know that they're going to give advantages to caregivers in COVID-19 because of the pandemic. They need caregivers in Canada, and they are going to issue work permits to caregivers without the need for labor market impact assessment. The caregivers won't need an LMIA now as per their recommendation. And for the caregiver pilot programs, like if the working hours were interrupted because of the pandemic, then they should be able to qualify from work experience point, and the age of children to be locked. As I said earlier, if they grow old, there is a need for documentation. Okay. Now 32 is again similar to the TR to PR pathway. So they are recommending that they should develop a pathway to PR for those who are performing essential work. Like I have made a video on that. Recommendation number 32 is that IRCC should develop a clear pathway for PR for workers who are basically essential workers during the pandemic period. So we could see a clear pathway for these guys. Now, 33 is about asylum seekers. So, IRCC should work with the International Organization for Migration and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. Okay, and they should permit refugees and asylum seekers to enter Canada, regardless of their country of origin or nationality. Like currently, probably they are accepting refugees from USA. Okay, so they want refugees or asylum seekers to come regardless of the country of origin, which is a great thing. Recommendation number 34 is about using the guardian agent program as a model. Now, what is a guardian angel program? This program is basically for refugees, and they should have claimed asylum before the pandemic, and these are the other details. Okay, so I wouldn't go into that, it will make the video unnecessarily longer. Recommendation number 35, 36, 37 and 38 are about Hong Kong residents, and I'm sure the Hong Kong residents are getting enough consideration from IRCC. Okay, so these were the 38 recommendations, and now you see that it has nothing to say about cancelling express entry or cancelling FSW. So express entry is there to stay. Don't worry about it, guys. Seriously. I mean, if express entry is not there, it will only mean that the software is updated. There is another software to apply for PR. This software is called express entry, and the next software could be called something else. But Canadian immigration, through these express entry type of softwares, is going to stay. Don't worry about it. This is Ali Iftikhar, and thank you for watching along.